Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our discussion on ethology, the different types of learning. So, in the last session, we discussed about the classical conditioning experiments by Pavlov and what are and the various aspects of classical conditioning. And today, we are going to discuss about another important type of learning, which is called as operant conditioning. This is also a type of associative learning, where the organism which is trying to learn is associating the stimulus with something and it is responding to that. So, this is the second type of associative learning. The Thorndike's law of effect. So, at the same time, about when Pavlov was experimenting on dogs with classical conditioning, E.L. Thorndike was conducting research on cats in a puzzle box. So, what Thorndike was trying to observe was that. So, here you can see a puzzle box. This is called as a Thorndike's puzzle box. So, this is a puzzle box, and a cat will be caged in this puzzle box, and you can see a door. The door is attached with the lever, and that lever is having a this particular lever, it is having an extension which is present in the inside of this puzzle box, and the cat will be inside. And what Thorndike did was that he put a plate of fish in the outside of the cage. So what the cat tries is, the cat will somehow try to get out of this cage and take its meal which is present outside. So what the cat rises, it will make many movements inside the cage. Tapping, then scrubbing the area, etc., with their legs, etc., in every corner, so that a path would be created to move into the plate of fish. So what Thorndike did was, there is a lever which is present inside. So accidentally, after many attempts, many failed attempts inside the puzzle box, um, one time the cat touches the lever which is present inside, the door will open so that the cat jumps outside. It has the fish which is present outside. So this was repeated for many times. And what Thorndike observed was that after one or two or three trials, what the cat does is, once it is caged inside, soon it goes to the lever and presses the lever, expecting that the door would open, it can come outside. So what the cat in this case was associating is that after many failed attempts, pressing the lever is a positive response, gives it a positive response, so that a positive uh, feedback, so that the door is opened and it get the response which is a fish which is present outside. So it goes on repeating the response, so that the stimulus which is a fish which is present outside can be achieved. The response here is pressing of the lever. So the pressing of the lever, after 2 3 attempts, it learns that pressing the lever will open the door so that it can come outside. So that is what the association that is happening between the stimulus and response to the stimulus in this particular case. So it is associating with the opening of the door, so that pressing of the lever causes opening of the door, and it can reach its target, which is a fish which is kept outside. And the Thorndike experiment, or the Thorndike law of effect, was less received during his time, and but it was popularized by the experiments which was carried forward by B.F. Skinner. And in Thorndike's effect, what he described was that the behavior followed by positive outcomes are strengthened, whereas the behavior which is followed by negative outcomes are weakened. The same thing in the puzzle box. When we keep a positive stimulus, which is a plate of fish outside, the cat will try to repeat it. That is what is called as the behavior followed by a positive outcomes are strengthened. That means it will try to repeat the pressing of the lever when it is caged inside. Whenever you cage the cat, it will try to press the lever and come out. So that the particular response is being, or the behavior followed by the outcomes are strengthened, whereas behavior which is followed by negative outcomes will be weakened. The same thing if the liver instead of the lever attaching to the door to be opened. If the lever was attached to an electric shock, what would happen? The cat, once it presses the lever, it receives a shock, and as a result, what happens is that is a negative outcome, because the pain inflicted, the pressing of the lever inflicted pain to the cat. So what the cat does is it will try its level best to avoid such a behavior which is causing harm to it. So that is what is described by Thorndike as the behavior which is followed by negative outcomes are usually weakened. And here the question comes how a correct signal response bond is strengthened and it is getting dominated, where an incorrect in the sense, a negative one, how it is getting weakened, or why the positive one is getting strengthened and the weaker one is being negated. And that is answered by the experiment, which is by the type of learning which is called as operant conditioning, which was put forward by Skinner. This is also called as instrumental conditioning, because it is a form of learning in which the consequences of the behavior produces change in the probability of occurrence of the behavior. That's why it is called as instrumental, because in this type of learning it depends upon the consequence. Consequence in the sense what we discussed in the previous slide, whether it is positive or negative. That is, if the consequence of the behavior is good, that means if the cat is getting a plate of fish after pressing the lever, the probability of occurrence of that particular behavior, that is pressing of the lever is the behavior here. So the cat will the probability will be higher, because it is getting a positive response, which is a plate of meal. So that it will be repeating that particular response every time. Whenever you cage the rat, it will press the lever, it tries to come out, and the probability will be higher. But if it is a negative one, the probability will decrease. That's why the consequence of the behavior produces changes in the probability of occurrence of the behavior. Changes means it can either increase depending upon whether it is positive, or it can decrease when it is negative. So here the response is instrumental in receiving a reward or escaping a punishment. That is why what we said, that is the response will be instrumental if whether it is receiving a reward or whether it is escaping from a punishment. Punishment is the other sense where we talked about of providing a shock in the liver. If the cat press the lever, if it is getting an electric shock, that is a punishment for that. So it will try to escape from that. It will try its level best not to touch that particular lever. But for the other case, if it is provided by food, it will repeat the particular behavior or particular response over and over again. So this is also called as this, and this operant conditioning was experimented or demonstrated by Skinner using pigeons, and this operant conditioning was used by Skinner for creating pigeon guided missiles during the Second World War. This particular conditioning, operant conditioning, or the pigeons were conditioned by operant conditioning method, which is an extension of Thorndike's experiment. And or conditioning the pigeons, Skinner created pigeon guided missiles during the Second World War. So we'll see how that was done. So in this particular experiment, which was done by Skinner, a pigeon will be will be put inside a cage, and the cage is a special one. You can see a colorful black and white disc here, and there's an opening here which will be usually shut, and you can see a point in the center of this particular disc. So what the pigeon tries is, the pigeon will try to peck at this particular disc, the colorful disc. It will try to peck in this particular disc. So pecking at the other points in the disc will not create any changes inside the puzzle box. But whenever it hit or it pecks at this particular point, pecking at this particular point will open this particular door, and it will get a grain of rice or a food. So what happens is, it will try to repeat the same thing. It will try to peck in and around this particular circle, and whenever it hits this particular dot in the center, it will be getting a grain. So that if it is getting its food, it will try to repeat it. It repeat the pecking, and as the case with our cat, which was demonstrated by Thorndike, after 5 or 6 attempts of getting the grain, it will start to peck at that particular the exact point, so that it will be getting the food, and that is being recorded. So you can see here, this particular disc is also attached to an electrode, and that is collected to a drum, a smoke drum, so that the reading of the extent or the impression of the pecking will be recorded here. And after, so this decreases without getting the food, it will decrease, and when it gets the food, again it will increase, start pecking, it gets the food, again it increases, again it decreases, and it goes on. So this is the experiment which demonstrated what is called as operant conditioning. And this conditioning, operant conditioning, was used to create guided pigeon guided missiles by B.F. Skinner during the Second World War. So what he did was he plated the beaks of pigeon with gold electrode, so that it will have a covering of the metal, and these are the missiles, and these are the three places where three pigeons will be caged inside these three chambers. And the pecking behavior, where Skinner will condition them for the pecking behavior, and they will be put inside this particular pigeon chambers. So what he did was that you can see three chambers where the pigeons will be housed in this particular chamber, and here, as you see here, these are the three places where the pigeons will be housed, and in these particular regions also contain the high frequency or pressure sensitive screens are present. So these are the pressure sensitive screen, and these pressure sensitive screens will display the scenery or the location or the view which is present outside. As the missile is moving, the moving screen or the moving image of the location will be reflected on this pressure sensitive screens, and the pigeons will be operantly conditioned to peck at the target. So the particular missile will be moving, and they will have a target location. So when the particular pigeons will be conditioned in such a way that to guide the missile to the particular target, so they will be pecking all through the inside the chambers, and this pecking will cause the missile to move forward. It will be guiding the missile to move forward. So, three specially trained pigeons will be put in the compartments in the nose of the missile. There are pressure sensitive screens which display the image which is seen in the front of the missile. And these images were projected through lens in the nose cone. And the contact with the screen on which the image of the target was projected sent a signal informing the missile's control mechanism of the target's location. If a few food grains will be put occasionally or given occasionally through the particular chamber, and hence the pigeons will be maintain their tracking behavior, so that at times the grains will be provided, so that the pecking behavior will be increased and the missile will reach the target. So this is how Skinner devised, or Skinner made operant conditioning into a pigeon guided missile. And another famous experiment which demonstrated this operant conditioning was with something, a puzzle box, which was called as a Skinner box, where Skinner used rats for the experiment. And the experimental setup is usually called as Skinner box. So this is Skinner, and you can see the puzzle box where you can see this. The experiments or the conduction of the experiment by Skinner, and this is the Skinner box. So in the Skinner box, what Skinner did was that you can see a mesh in the floor, and this mesh is electrified. Whenever the rat tries or presses a lever, electric shocks would be released from the or this. Uh, this particular meshwork, as I said, it is electrified, and this electrification, when the rat is put inside, it will start, or the electricity, which the current will be switched on, and that will inflict pain in the rat. So what the rat tries is, it will try its maximum to press something, to move into some corner, or it will produce certain behavior so as to escape from this pain. And certain levers or certain switches will be placed um, inside this puzzle box or the Skinner box, so that accidentally, in the first time, accidentally, the rat will press a particular switch or a lever, so that the electric shock goes off. Okay, so the pain is being reduced here. So there was a pain, and because of that particular response, which was, or behavior which was done by the rat, the behavior was pressing a particular switch. The pain was, or the shock was gone. Again, if you switch on the current, the rat will again try to do something, and after 2 to 5 trials, like the pigeon and also the cat uh, learned to open the door, and the pigeons try to get the grain. The same thing will be done by the rat. The rat will learn the specific key which is causing it to erase the pain which is caused by the shock, so that that particular behavior will be repeated whenever the shock is on, or whenever the current is given in the mesh. And in operant conditioning, we come across two terminologies. They are called as positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. So the frequency positive reinforcement is something which is, the frequency of a response is strengthened because it is followed by a rewarding stimulus. That is positive reinforcement, which is the case with our the case with our cat, where uh, the free the frequency of the response will be strengthened because it is being rewarded, because whenever it presses the lever, it is getting its meal. So it is a reward for that, so that the response will be strengthened. Negative reinforcement. Here the frequency of the response increases. Here also the response is increasing, and because the response is followed by the removal of the aversive stimulus. So this is the example of the rat which was done by Skinner. So what negative reinforcement is, here also the response increases. That means here also the rat is increasing its behavior. It is moving and again and touching the liver, so that the shock will not be there. So it increases the response. That means whenever the shock is given after 5 to 6 trials, it will show the behavior. It will go and touch that particular switch, so that the shock is removed, and that is what is called as negative reinforcement. Here the frequency of the response increases. Response here is going and offing, or switching off the shock, or pressing the lever so that the shock is absent, because the response, that means switching off, is followed by removal of an aversive stimulus, that is shock. So these are the two examples of positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, and these two can be seen in operant conditioning. So operant conditioning is usually, the classical conditioning is usually seen in animals, but operant conditioning can also be seen in humans. So this is an example of operant conditioning seen in humans while we select our costume, or uh, our dresses. So when I move, or when I visit a particular showroom for the first time, what I do is, I will try brand X. It is unrewarded in the sense that it is not fit. Unrewarded in the sense that I didn't get the shirt. The reward here is, I will be buying a shirt. That is a reward which I get here. So the first brand, which was X, it was unfit for me. So that I'm moving to brand Y. So the brand Y is fit, but the color is not appealing to me. So that is also an unreward from brand Y. Next, I move to brand Z, and it was rewarded. That means it is perfect fit with the perfect color. So what happens here is, so I went to that particular shop for the first time. That was a new shop in the area. I went there. I tried brand X, then I tried brand Y, and I tried brand Z, and I got a perfect fit with the perfect color. And the next time if I visit, or if I'm visiting the particular same shop in other shop, what I will be doing is, rather than going for X and Y, I will directly ask for brand Z. So that is what is done by our cat, the rat, and the pigeons. What they do is, once they learn that by this particular behavior, that is by pressing this particular lever, I will get fish. By pressing this particular lever, or by pecking at that particular point, I will get a grain. Or by pressing at a particular lever, the shock will be removed. The same is applicable here. If I choose brand Z, that particular shirt will be fit and I will get a color of my choice. So this is another example of operant conditioning, which is demonstrated in humans, where uh, the shopping behavior of humans, which is usually guided by operant conditioning, that is choosing of a particular brand. We try different brands, and if we get a brand which is suited, the next time what we do is we directly go and choose that particular brand, rather than going around and searching for the other brands. The same was done by, for example, our cat. The cat, in the first time, it just knocked at the particular wall. The wall didn't open. That is brand X here. It went and just pushed the hit head in another other wall. Nothing happened. Accidentally hit pressed the liver. That is brand Z here. So when the liver was pressed by the cat, it got food. When I tried brand Z, I got a shirt which is of perfect fit. So next time, if I am going to that particular shop, I will go to brand, or I will choose brand set. The same thing, if I put the rat in the cage again, what the cat does is it will again press the lever instead of moving and knocking all around. So this is what is called as operant conditioning, and these are the examples of operant conditioning. So here also the process of the concepts of extinction happens. That is, in operant conditioning, extinction occurs when a previously reinforced response is no longer reinforced and there is decreased tendency to perform the response. So what happens here is, if a particular response is not getting rewarded, or a particular response does not help an animal to escape from that particular stimulus, what happens is, the particular behavior will go extinct. So that is what is called as extinction in this. And the other three concepts are concepts of operant conditioning, are the different types of punishment. So punishment is a consequences usually. So punishment is something which is negative. So a consequence that decreases the likelihood of a behavior is called as punishment. So that is always a negative. So that you get a negative response, and hence you decrease the likelihood of that particular behavior. So, and punishment is also can be categorized as two: positive punishment as well as negative punishment. So, positive punishment is what is a behavior which decreases when it is followed by an unpleasant stimulus. A behavior that will be decreased when it is followed by an unpleasant stimulus. So here you can take the example where uh, of a positive punishment is a behavior is decreasing when it is followed by an unpleasant stimulus. The same can be taken with the case of a child which is using an abusive word. So what happens is, when a child uses an abusive word, the parent scolds him, or the parent slaps him. So what happens is, slapping is an unpleasant or an because the response was unpleasant, and the behavior, and in such cases the behavior will decrease when it is followed by an unpleasant stimulus, because the result is beating, so that the child will try to avoid such situations in future. Next is a negative punishment. So here also the behavior decreases when positive stimulus is removed from it. So here the same example of our cat can be taken. So in the first experiment, we said that the cat was provided by food when it opened or it pressed the lever and opened the door. But what if we are not providing anything? That means for many trials, it hopes that it will be getting food. It tries to open the door, and the positive stimulus is not present. Positive stimulus was its food, it is not present. So what it learns is that pressing the liver is not gaining anything for it, so that the behavior decreases when a positive stimulus is removed from it. When there is no food, it will slow down, and lastly it will lead to an extinction of that particular response. It will stop pressing the liver, so that it does not get the food. So these are the examples, or these are the concepts of operant conditioning. What we discussed: the extinction, then the different types of punishment, and also the negative, positive reinforcement, as well as the negative reinforcement. So with this, we come to the end of operant conditioning. So we'll discuss the other types of learning in the coming sessions. Thanks for hearing.